Hello and welcome to this week's edition of the Unorthodox Vegan. My name is Sean Gold. Today we'll be doing jambalaya. Episode 18 is going to be jambalaya. I've often wondered about jambalaya, and I realize that a lot of the foods that I make just for everyday cooking are kind of like jambalaya. It's a mixture of vegetables and some protein and some rice. And sometimes I just cook the rice in the pot, which is what we're going to do for making the jambalaya. The ingredients we'll be using are quite simple. Most of the things you should have at home, as I've always used, is a can of diced tomatoes. I have some rice, some onions, some garlic, some peppers, bell peppers, green peppers for the Cajun spicing. I have salt and pepper. I have some Cajun spices that I have around, a little bit of thyme, and some bay leaves, as well as some cayenne pepper. And that's what I'll be using for the extra heat for the flavoring. I'll also be using jalapeno peppers and okra. And I've never cooked with okra before, but I did a little taste test earlier and I thought, it doesn't taste bad. And the recipe calls for it, so we'll be using it. For protein, I'll be using, in place of an andouille sausage, I'll be using a Gusta sausage material. I'll be slicing this up and putting that in there. And because I'm not a vegan, I am a climatarian, hence the name Unorthodox Vegan. I'm going to be putting in some stuff that you probably wouldn't put in if you're a vegan, because I'm going to be putting in some smoked mussels and some smoked oysters. I'll be using that for a nice smoky flavor and also for the extra protein. I think it's going to taste good. If you're a vegan and don't want to eat that, that's fine. Put in some tofu. You can get some all kinds of smoked tofus or other tofus out there. Just fry them up and then you can add those in. So that's what I'll be doing. I'm going to just start to prepare a bunch of stuff here, cutting up some of the peppers, cutting up the okra and the onion and garlic, and getting that all ready, and slicing up the meat. And I'll be back in a minute. All right, I'm heating up a little bit of oil in a deep saucepan. They call it more like a stock pan or soup pan, something like that. Got a little bit of oil in there. I don't need a lot of oil because I am using these smoked oysters and smoked mussels that are already in some sunflower oil. So I'm limiting the amount of oil I need to fry it in. And the idea of frying them up initially is just to cook this if it was using a chicken breast, making sure it's properly cooked. So I'm just going to be putting that in. And the sausage, which is this vegan sausage, getting that in there. And I'm just going to stir it around a little bit. Let it just get a little bit of the flavor in there, a little bit of just a little bit of cooking. Just get it a little bit browned, get some texture, additional texture to it. I did cut up the mussels and the oysters. And I apologize for those who are true vegans that you're going to be watching this, but from a climatarian point of view, they're one of the best things in the world for the environment, because they not only do they help clean the ocean, but raising them is a good thing. Eating them, taking care of them, making sure that we harvest them properly is good for the ocean. It's good for the planet, and so I'm sorry, but that's what I got to. I feel it's important to do that. Again, you don't have to do this. You could just use some tofu and some oil, get it browned, and get the texture that you want. And let that cook a little bit. Sit around for about 5 to 7 minutes, browning and stuff like that. And then I will be back when I take these. When I'm finished doing that, I'll take it out of the pan, and I'll start to put in the vegetables. We want to get those cooked up. All right, back in a minute. All right, I've added just a little bit, taken the meat out of the frying pan, and I've added in a little bit more oil. We're putting in all the veggies. That'll be the onions, the peppers, which is green, orange, and yellow peppers. I turned the heat down just a little bit. I won't be putting in the okra just yet. The jalapeno pepper, chopped up, finely chopped up. And I think that's it, yes. I'm going to just give that a little stir, give that a little bit of a fry. I've got it down to a medium heat now. I had it at a medium high. Now let that saute for about 6 minutes, get it all nice and softened up a little bit. And chopping up some of the pieces that didn't get cut all the way through. And I'll be back in a minute. Okay, I've softened up the onions and the peppers. I'm going to now add in my stewed or diced tomatoes. This is a 28-ounce can. It says for 14 ounces, but I figure what the heck. I did back off a little bit on the stock. It says to put in 3 to 4 cups of stock, but because I'm using more tomatoes, I'm putting in 2 cups of stock. Letting that get in there. And I'll be adding in some flavoring. Starting off with a tablespoon of a Cajun spice mix that I have. Get that in there. And I'll be putting in a teaspoon of thyme. And get that in there. And a 1/4 teaspoon of cayenne pepper. If you like pepper, you can probably go more. I'm figuring that my wife is going to want to have some of this. And I better not put in more than she can handle. So a 1/4 teaspoon of cayenne pepper. And one of my favorite things to add in cooking, and it is recommended in this recipe, is a bay leaf. That's not a big enough bay leaf. I want a whole, nice, good sized bay leaf. These are dry. I'm going to put in a whole bay leaf, and I'm going to let this, mix that around, and let this get to a simmer before we start looking at putting in the rice and getting it to that next step. So let me just get that in there, mix it around a little bit, and I'll let that get up to a simmer. Be back in a bit. And I did forget to put in one thing. I need to put in a 1.5 cups of long grain rice. I'm using a jasmine rice. I'm going to be putting in a full cup of that, 1.5 cups. Get a 1/2 cup measure. And letting that mix in and cook. So that's going to bring it up to a simmer. And once I do that, I'm going to then turn it down. Right now it's at a medium. I'm going to go medium, slightly high heat, get it up to a simmer. Once it reaches a simmer, I'm going to turn it down to a medium low and cover it and let that rice absorb most of that liquid. We'll see what happens there on that. So let me just get this thing up, and we'll be back in a bit. Now I added a little bit more rice to it because I thought that there was just a little bit too much liquid in there with that 28-ounce or 26-ounce can of diced tomatoes that had a lot of liquid in it. And I put in 2 cups of the stock. So I thought, I put in an extra 1/2 cup of rice into the mix. It finished simmering. I turned it down now to a medium low heat, and I've got it covered. Every few minutes, every 5 so minutes, you're supposed to let it cook, by the way, like that for about 20 minutes, 25 minutes, 30 minutes. And then we'll be putting in the okra and letting that cook a little bit, and then throwing in the sausage and the other proteins going in there and letting that all settle for a little bit, and a little bit of salt and pepper to season. So that's what we'll be doing. I'm just going to give it a little stir right now, make sure that it's not sticking to the bottom. As you can see, a lot of the liquid has already been absorbed by the rice. This has only been in there for about 7 or 8 minutes. I'm going to go for another 20 minutes and see how it goes. And just make sure that nothing is sticking and creating a problem. We don't want to burn anything in there. Somehow my microphone was off when I did put in the okra, but I did put in the okra and I've mixed it in, and I'm letting that heat up right now, heat through. I still have the heat turned on at a medium low heat, and I've mixed that okra in. You can see that the texture looks wonderful. And I'm also now going to add in the protein. So we got the sausage slices, and that's a vegan sausage, and other stuff that you don't want to necessarily know about, but that's the oysters and mussels, the smoked oysters and mussels. I'm just going to mix that in as well. Let that have a little bit of, move it around, give it some space. And I'm going to do a taste test in a minute. Just want to see how everything tastes. See if we need to add any extra seasoning. Let's see how this goes. All right. Oh, hot. Temperature hot. Okay. We do need, I think we need a little extra seasoning. So I'm going to put in a little bit more of that Cajun seasoning. Just a little bit more. Another teaspoon or so. And I'm going to be putting in some salt and pepper. Not too much salt. I find it already has a little bit of salty flavor to it. Probably from the Cajun seasoning. A little bit of salt and some pepper. Mix that around. See how that goes. All right, here's the final taste test. I have taken a little bit of, got to be able to see it. I have made myself a little plate of the jambalaya. I cut up the sausage a little bit because I thought it was a little bit too big, and that worked out a little better. So let's just see what this tastes like. Oh, the sausage is a little overwhelming, but the gumbo itself, the jambalaya itself, very nice flavor. It's just a right flavor. The texture is great. I never had okra before. I learned a lot about okra in just doing a little bit of research about it, about how it actually acts a thickening agent. It can act as that, and it's a nice. It's a pleasant flavor. Uh, I can tell you, my grandkids are going to love this. They like things that have rice and are hearty, and this is hearty, filling, and very tasty. Oh, and I don't think my wife's going to be too upset about the heat, although you can feel it. There's some heat there. All right. Well, that's it for this episode 18 of the Unorthodox Vegan. My name is Sean Gold. You want to get a hold of me? My email address is shown up. Let's do it right here. My email address is right there. And you can also follow me on the YouTube channel, www.youtube.com/@the_unorthodox_vegan /. And looking forward to hearing back from you. Until then, my name is Sean Gold. Have a great day. Bye for now.